The Guns on Pegs podcast is brought to you by iTap Group. Hello and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast with me, George Brown.
And me, Chris Horn. How are you, George?
Yeah, not bad, Chris. Not bad at all. I'm slightly more happy because I'm off on holiday next week, which I'm looking forward to a lot. Half term with the kids, going skiing.
Have you been Winter Olympic vibing?
I have been Winter Olympic vibing, which has been lots of fun. And actually, my article on Scribehound, which comes out next week, has got quite a strong Olympian vibe. That's all I'm going to say. There's a trail for you. It'll come out the day after this episode. And it's kind of bonkers. So I'm quite happy with it. But yeah, it's been fun. And yes, the Winter Olympics have been great.
I think we're falling way short of our medal hopes, but hey ho.
Did we have any? I don't think we did.
We were hoping between 5 and 8, I think. But I'm waiting for the slalom on Monday. I'm a big slalom fan, so
okay.
Yeah, looking to be watching that. But more apt for today's episode, I've just got back from a dog walk, and the Yellowhammers were out in force.
Were they? Great.
Yeah,
that's great. Fantastic news.
Yeah,
very good. Well, without further ado, then why don't you introduce our guest?
Indeed. So our guest today spent 17 years as a gamekeeper and deer manager in the Cotswolds, the Chilterns and Suffolk. But for the last 5 years, he's been the game and wildlife advisor or a game wildlife advisor with the GWCT, where, among other things, he is shoot manager at the Game Wildlife Conservation Trust's Loddington Shoot, which is part of the Allerton project, and fascinating for many different reasons, which I can't wait to get into. So please put down your flags and your sticks. We'll go with that. Put your hands together and give a big warm welcome to Alex Keeble.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for joining us, Alex. It's going to be really interesting. But as you know, the way we like to kick these podcasts off is with a round of what's that you're drinking. So what have you got in your glass this afternoon, Alex?
Well, being from Suffolk and being a traditionalist, I love old ales. So I've actually got an Adnams Old Ale, which was actually first brewed in 1890. It's very dark, and you'd think that most ales are quite strong, but it's actually only just over 4%. So that is what I am drinking, and it is very nice. And I think actually on the website it says that you should heat a poker up in a fire and dip it in the pint of beer to warm it up before you drink it. So
wow.
I haven't done that, but it's been by the radiator.
That's a really interesting thing. I'd like to try that.
Yeah, that's
really. Yeah, I did not. That suggests it would actually be quite warm.
Yes, it is quite warm, and it's very nice. I sort of prefer the darker ales to the pale ales that you get in pubs nowadays. But to find something like this, I have to actually order it online because I don't live in Suffolk anymore. So.
Yeah, me too. And I'm a big Suffolk drinks fan, and I've been known to have an Adnams and an Aspel's and everything else, having grown up there as well. Where in Suffolk are you from?
Originally from near Stowmarket.
Stowmarket.
Yes, that's it. So it's a lovely part of the country.
Yeah, not far. I was near Long Melford, so
very nice. Chris, what have you got? What's that you're drinking?
I've gone different, but mainly because I had it in the fridge ready to go. So I've gone back to something I love. I have half a bottle actually of Savigny Le Bon, which is it's white because I do love red Savignys, from Chateau de la Charrière, and it's really lovely. I'm just a massive Burgundy fan. Doesn't really matter what it is, but this is a really drinkable wine, so I'm going to enjoy this for a while.
And you've got half a bottle, so you're planning on tying one on in this recording, which is good to know. It's a long time since you've got properly tiddly on a podcast, so I'm pleased about that.
Well, I've got nursery germs as well. I mean,
so it's medicinal Burgundy.
This time of year, as you know, is a tough one as a parent with young children.
Yeah,
if you can get away with it, you are something else. Either that, or you're just a bad dad. Bad mum, you never see them.
Crikey.
What are you drinking?
Well, I've got a gin and tonic because, well, not for any particular reason other than that I fancied one. Bombay Sapphire, which is quite basic in some ways, but it is made in Hampshire. So I'm using that as my excuse. And it's a gin and tonic, so it's beautiful and refreshing and making me feel very Friday afternoonish.
I used to shoot with the guy who came up with that.
What, with Bombay or with the bottle?
Yeah. No, with the whole thing, the whole branding, the story, the name, the lot.
Wow.
Yeah. He does a lot of shooting, as you can imagine.
Well, I bet he does, yeah. Right. So, Alex, as you know, we like to start things off with a rummage around in the email inbox. And we start off with something called Whose Bird Is It Anyway, which is when we ask our listeners to write in with their shooting quandaries and queries and dilemmas, all that sort of thing. And we do our best to help them out. This one, our first one today, comes from somebody I shall call Biggles, who writes, "First, thank you for the continued entertainment and educational content. Some of it genuinely useful, some of it absolutely useless, though I'm confident it will one day win me an argument in the pub or beater's wagon, which makes it worthwhile. Secondly, and more importantly, I'm writing to present what I suspect may be an unpopular opinion, or at least one that will earn a sharp intake of breath. Dog goggles on a shoot. For context, I'm a very old-school traditional sort. On the syndicate, my nickname is C&A, purely because I insist on wearing breeks, shirt, tie, and generally look like I've dressed exclusively from the men's formal wear aisle of C&A circa 1998. So let me set a slight scene. Useless to the opinion, but it gives a backstory. After a few seasons working my GSPs, it became increasingly difficult to stop them from independently beating each drive without me, leaving the remaining dogs, beaters, and myself to politely ask the pheasants to leave the thick, thorny undergrowth. GSPs obviously taking the easy targets. Slight exaggeration, but a big running GSP on a small syndicate does require, let's say, management. As a result, a Cocker Spaniel was introduced to the team. After just under 2 years of training, this little worker turned out to be a dream. Slightly excitable, works beautifully close, and took to thick cover like she was born in it. So come the season opener, expectations were quietly high, and I was then falling back in line with the traditions. On the first shoot day, I sensibly left Mabel in the truck while I stood on peg, working on patience and steadiness. She wasn't quite ready. Beating on the long lead was going very well, so by the third shoot of the season, it was time. She came on peg and free to beat for the day. Drive 1, she retrieved a lovely headbird from around 40 yards. Slight sightseeing detour on the way back, but otherwise textbook. I was buzzing, full proud dad mode, and the other guns noticed with pats on the back and good girl ringing after the drive. Next drive, we started beating. One of the GSPs pointed at a large bramble growth and in went the cocker, a partnership I didn't know I needed. Then came a noise I will hear in my sleep for years to come. Mabel emerged from the brambles, head down, tail still, and something wrong. Her eye looked odd. On closer inspection, there was blood at the bottom of the eyeball. I pulled her back out of the line, got down for another look. The blood was now halfway up the eye. This was no longer a she'll be fine moment. Emergency vet visit followed by a 90-minute drive to an eye specialist. Thankfully, surgery wasn't required, but we had discovered a thorn had gone straight through the center of her eye. Proud dad instantly replaced by deeply soppy, very worried dad. We're still treating the eye, hoping to preserve as much peripheral vision as possible. The advice given was to consider keeping her on a lead while beating, as reduced central vision means she may not see thorns in time. So that wasn't going to be a solution. Then I did something, and I bought goggles. I've tried them. She doesn't seem bothered in the slightest. If anything, they've made her feel indestructible. She now charges through brambles with total confidence until the thorns or brambles slide off the goggles and then cut her nose and ears instead. It's put me in this confusing situation, which brings me to my dilemma. Does this C&A old school gent or any working dog owner accept the goggles, break tradition and embrace modern solutions, or accept that this was a freak accident unlikely to happen again and return to doing things the traditional way? I wait your wisdom and judgment.
Goodness me.
It's quite a roller coaster, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I mean, Alex, vibes. What are you thinking
I've
here?
seen it a few times in the field, but it tends to be. I've seen it with Labradors about 3 times, I think, with Labradors. So it does happen. I think it's a good idea to get the goggles. I've seen it banded around on social media a few times. People with dogs with goggles on. So,
Oh, really? I've never seen it. I think it's one of these situations where once it's happened to you, you're just going to permanently worry.
definitely.
Yes, and I think, given what the vet has said about reduced central vision, I think, to reduce the risk of it happening again, goggles seems like a very sensible solution. However, I think in some ways what he's actually asking is it okay if you're an old school gent to have a dog with goggles on? Which is quite an interesting one.
I feel sorry for him because, like, the poor dog, he wants to go out. Like, can I leave his dress aside for a second? Because I also feel sorry for him on that one too. In that, like, can I just address the dog and then his attire?
Yeah.
The problem is, if you rock up to a shoot with a dog with goggles on, you're getting questions. They don't know. When they ask, they're then going to feel awkward when he says, "My dog went blind running through the cover, trying to put out a bird for you," type thing, So, like, I think that at that point, everyone is going to ask, they're going to feel awkward. There's kind of nothing you can do about that. But I can see in this scenario, he kind of has no choice but to go with the goggles approach.
Yes,
unless he's
I
like, whatever,
agree.
Poor dog.
I think you're absolutely right. But look, I've got a perfect solution for this, which is
okay.
The dog needs goggles, but the goggles.
I know what you're going to say.
The goggles have to befit the environment. So what the dog needs is some old, and this is why I called him Biggles, needs old school flying goggles. Leather straps.
Like big leather things around the side.
It's perfect.
Not like a set of racing goggles, as in horse racing, jockey goggles, because they'd be perfect for the wide vision, all that, and the little bit of air.
Well, actually, that's quite a good idea. Or maybe like, sort of the sort of racing glasses, racing goggles that that racing drivers wore back in the 20s or whatever.
Oh yeah,
well,
they're pretty much Biggles. Yeah. Not or not like a set of like mirrored lens Oakley ski goggles.
I don't think that would be quite the vibe for you.
Oh, no, because you'd probably wince when the dog scratched them. You're like, no, not those.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. But it's interesting, Alex. So you've seen this happen to other dogs in the field, which I've never come across. I mean, you come across dogs getting a nick or something, don't you?
Yes, yeah, with Blackthorn mainly. I've got a few friends that have had it happen, but their dogs are not wearing goggles afterwards, so the event is forgotten about and carried on.
Okay, you need to ask them, did they go through this thing? Did they think about it, or did it never cross their mind, or did they not even know it was like something you could actually do?
Yeah, that definitely needs to be asked.
Can you imagine a blackthorn through the eye?
I'd rather not. But I mean, it's interesting. There is a duty of care that we have, where we're asking these dogs to work for us, and therefore we have to look after them. So I think I can't think where it is, but I think possibly in the States when they're going after mountain lion and that sort of thing. And I think possibly in Sweden where there's a lot of wolves about. Their dogs have sort of spiky collars on that sort of prevent them from being killed by a predator, so it sort of protects their neck. So I think there's precedent for it as well, sort of protective gear for dogs.
I think I thought what you were going to say earlier is that Chappie here has to also turn up wearing the same goggles as his dog.
Well, now 2 sets of flying goggles.
Then the focus goes away from his country gent attire, old school gent attire, because they're like, hold on a second.
He's got some Speedo goggles on.
He's got some goggles on, and your dog's got some goggles on. Like, I'm not even getting to your tie and the rest of your dress. Like, what's going on here? I think that's owning the situation and going for it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to lean into it, don't you? That's the only way you can do it.
I think so. I mean, it'll just add to banter of the day, won't it? I think having a dog with goggles on, and maybe you could get tweeds inlaid somehow.
Yeah, there's a business here for someone. Bespoke tweedy goggles for dogs.
Or he puts the dog in like a tweedy like waistcoat to match his waistcoat, and then the goggles on the dog, and he in the goggles, and then he's just gone 2 feet into the situation. Everyone's laughing with him by that point. They're not laughing at him.
I'll tell you one thing just to be slightly careful of is the goggles getting snagged on something. I guess they'll just pop off, but there's a reason we don't have collars on in the beat, for example. I mean, the dogs don't have collars on, that sort of thing. And, I'm never quite sure where I stand on coats for dogs, apart from the sort of toweling ones for the end of the day. I'm not entirely in favour of that, even if it is tweed.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was
You've
entirely
just got a
joking.
soft dog.
I think, but what I'm saying is, if you're making it wear goggles, you might as well just crack on.
Maybe some flippers and a snorkel.
Were you thinking swimming goggles at the start? Is that your go-to when you thought, okay, I'll get some goggles for the dog? Is that what you were thinking?
That's what I assume, is that he's gone out and bought some sort of Speedo swimming goggles, yeah.
There's no way, if I was a dog, I'd be wearing them for long.
What sort of goggles were you thinking?
I was going full Biggles from the start, but then I realised with my racing comment is that is absolutely the only option.
Maybe there's people who maybe we're showing our ignorance, and there is, in fact, already goggles for dogs.
I expect there is. Because how do they stay on? Because their head shape's completely different to us. So.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Okay, so there's everything you've ever wanted, and for £8.29 on Amazon, you can get full-blown Biggles goggles. You can get sun versions. You can get dog goggles and helmets. You can get dogs with a camera built in this goggles with a camera built in the side.
That's fantastic.
We're so naive.
So how do they stay on?
Some of them look like a gas mask. They've got like full-blown head turned into collar. Others have got like what almost looks like a bit, like a horse bit. Like, genuinely,
this all sounds quite extreme. Are you sure you're on the right website?
Look, I'm on Rex Specs and Doggles.
Rex Specs. That's very good. That feels to me like maybe a sort of 2 a.m. idea that's come out.
Gone mad. Yeah. These days, you never know whether this is just AI, but I'm seeing Google shopping results. So, I mean, you can spend 80 quid on these things.
Crikey. That's more than I spent on my own sunglasses.
Don't make me start, George. Okay, right. Turns out dog goggles are a thing. I like the Alsatian in the dog goggles. Anyway, moving on, because this is an audio version podcast.
Yeah. He did say at the beginning that some of our advice was absolutely useless and some of it was useful. I don't think we've been terribly helpful there, other than to say, just you've got to make sure that the goggles fit the vibe.
Yeah, he's definitely got to embrace it and just go with it if he's concerned.
Now that you've said, Alex, that some of your friends have had this happen and they carry on, I feel like I'm a bit of a softie now, because my natural reaction was, poor dog, get it some goggles. But
yeah, I mean, obviously they were rested afterwards. It wasn't going, straight back into the field, but it definitely, once it's happened and they've recovered from it, it's sort of freak accidents, isn't it? I suppose it could be anything. Next time you go out, it could be barbed wire or anything, jumping a fence.
Do you think the dog knows what's happened and like that it could happen again? If they obviously have they have an understanding. When something happens, they can obviously like lose their confidence and go funny. It'd probably tell you after you wore it for a couple of times. If you didn't wear it, if you didn't put them on, it'd sort of probably look at you waiting, wouldn't it? They do. They're not stupid, these things.
Oh yeah, I mean they definitely. It might even be that, like when you come downstairs in the morning with your breeks on, it might be that when they see you take the goggles off the hook, they think, aha, it's a fun day.
Bramble running.
Good. Well, I thought that was a really interesting one. And yes, I look forward to seeing a photo of Biggles and what was Biggles's friend called? Algie. Biggles and Algie in the field with their matching goggles on.
And can we also please encourage him not to tone down his CNA circa 1998 dress sense? I love it, please.
Correct.
Yeah.
I completely
There's
agree.
too many people relaxing their standards, and I'm not happy about it.
Well, that brings us quite nicely on to the next one, which is all about standards, personal standards. Another dilemma from somebody who's been on before and is already a member of the Most Noble Order of the Garters, so already has a pseudonym, Gideon. He says, "Hello, gentlemen. A fellow member of the Most Noble Order of the Garter here, cap in hand and gun broken, seeking guidance on a matter of grave importance, or at least one that has become increasingly expensive. Due to the dreary realities of gainful employment, I don't get to shoot as often as I'd like. As a result, when I do shoot, I treat it as something of an occasion rather than an endurance sport. However, reflecting on the past season, I fear my approach may be financially naive and socially provocative. I don't shoot on a syndicate. Instead, I buy individual days, usually with people I've never met before. This has been thoroughly enjoyable as it introduces me to all corners of the shooting community, from the thoughtful sportsman to the chap who appears to believe his gun will explode if not discharged every 7 seconds. Most days I shoot are 150 to 200 bird days. Before the first drive, I set myself a personal bag limit. For example, on a 200 bird day standing 8 guns over 5 drives, I'll aim for roughly 5 birds per drive. This tends to focus the mind wonderfully and results in me only shooting at the best flying birds, or the ones that demand a bit of thought, timing, and self-respect. The downside is that entire squadrons of pheasants and partridge will sometimes sail majestically overhead while I stand motionless, gun lowered, enjoying the view like I'm at the National Trust. At the end of the drive, I'm delighted with what I've shot. Unfortunately, this feeling rarely survives the gun bus. The banter begins, figures are exchanged, and suddenly numbers north of 10 or 15 birds per drive are being casually announced, usually by those who appear to have been shooting at Shadows, Hopes, and possibly neighbouring counties. My own tally is noted, eyebrows are raised, and helpful commentary is offered about the many birds that got away over my peg. I attempt to explain that I favour quality over quantity. This explanation is generally received in the same spirit as saying you're only having 1 pint at a shoot lunch. By the end of the day, the bag has been met, and then enthusiastically exceeded. Cue overages, followed by the realization that my principled restraint has not only failed to save low-flying birds, but has also cost me more money. So here is my quandary. Do I continue shooting selectively, maintaining my own standards and paying for the enthusiasm of others? Or do I abandon etiquette entirely, embrace my inner machine gunner, and add enthusiastically to the overages for the days I have not been able to attend due to work commitments, and pay more anyway, but with fewer comments about my passivity? In short, is restraint noble or just expensive?
Wowzers, there's a lot to unpack in here. Alex, first thoughts?
Yeah, it's a common yet and challenging topic.
Take your gloves off. Go for it. What's the first thoughts that come into your head?
My first thoughts that come into my head is that I've seen it a fair bit with, when you buy a peg in a group of people that you don't know, everyone's there, and a lot of people that there have bought the peg and thought to themselves, I've paid my money. I'm going to, if birds come over, I'm going to shoot it. I think it's down to the shoot host or whoever's behind the line to watch what's dropping to sort of try and, blow the whistle. Maybe if he blew the whistle when they'd reached what they needed, instead of, carrying on a little bit, people might realize that maybe let's not keep getting stuck in a little bit.
That's a very gamekeeper-y answer, and I like it because I agree that it is down to the shoot manager to keep an eye on what's coming down and to stop the drive at the appropriate moment. Chris, what do you think here?
It never ceases to amaze me, the lack of social awareness on some shoot days. I can't. I cannot understand people who rock up on a day. It doesn't matter whether you're a guest, paying, whatever, and not understand the sort of form for the day, what makes a challenging sporting bird, also the idea that sometimes you're in it and you're going to shoot more than your fair share, but you're respective of that. There's a lot going on here. I got the impression he was suggesting that he'll let good birds go over his head, irrespective, because he wants to shoot 5 a drive. With his sort of calculations at the start, I started wincing because I was like, don't do it like that. Look,
I was going to ask if you do that sort of maths for yourself or not.
Oh, fuck no. Like, you you understand exactly what roughly, like, you don't need to do maths to understand loosely what sort of day you're on, right? It's the keeper and the shoot manager's job to make sure that the day goes relatively according to what has been organized. If it's a paid day, you've got a job to manage. Like, that's the scenario. Doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter whether it's single guns or a team. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
But
oh gosh, I've been on plenty of invitational shoots, so to speak, with extraordinarily greedy guns.
Yeah, I mean, what is that all about?
But I think it's an interesting exercise, right? To sort of set yourself a limit. I know there's going to be lots of birds over the peg. I'm going to pick the best 5. I think is quite a noble thing to do, actually. That being said, one of the things I don't like is the comparison at the end. How many did you get there? I don't like that.
Numbers in the gun bus. Can we start banning this, please? Like, it's not cool.
Well, the thing is, to have shot more than somebody else isn't cool.
No.
Right? That's the thing. Like, I don't care how many you've shot. It doesn't interest me in the slightest because I didn't see them. Like, if you shot one really good one, I'm interested in that. Yeah, I'm not interested in you having shot 15, average pheasants.
I'm interested in what makes you happy. I want to know about what you really enjoyed. I don't want to know about your bloody cricket score. X for X. Like, piss off.
Yes.
Someone who's a pod listener pulled me up the other day on saying you're keen on banning things, and I realised, yeah, I am. But only idiots.
You'd like to ban idiots?
Yeah. I'm a big believer of natural selection and idiots falling foul of it. Alex, tell me, as a keeper, if someone did this, where they're like, I shoot 5 birds a drive, and they were on your shoot, and they just happened to be in it, the wind was in the right direction, and they let loads of really good birds go over them, how would you feel?
It would be, I'd struggle on it. I think, like you said earlier, Chris, with, if you limit yourself to 5 birds and you're out of it on one drive, but then you're in it on the next, and you've got, that is the nature of shooting, isn't it? Some pegs you'll have more sport and some pegs you won't. So you do need to just assess each drive as they come to you, I think, and just shoot what gives you pleasure effectively. If it's a nice pheasant, then shoot. And and also we go into shot to kill ratios and things like that. And actually, if you're a very good shot, then maybe hold back a bit. But
I think the other you sort of do need to be a bit reactive, right? Because if on any shoot day, as you say, you're going to have a couple of drives where you're not quite so much in it, but maybe one drive where you're really in the thick of the action and you really have a lot over you. If you have that early on in the day, you probably do need to just hold yourself back a little bit. Whereas if you've been out of it until the last drive of the day, then I think you're completely within your rights to really go for it on that final drive when you are in the action a bit more.
There's one really important point we're sort of slightly skirting around here, which is this illusion that a good day equates to you getting your fair share. Rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. They're not linked at all.
That's very true. I had a very nice day out earlier this season where I only let the gun off twice, and I had a very, very enjoyable time. It sort of doesn't matter.
The big test is look back at the end of the season and tell me what bits you really remember. Actually, we're in February now. This is perfect. What part of yours? What are the bits of your season like? Write your top 10 moments down, and what do they equate to? Because if one of those is, I shot 28 and a 9 gone line on 250 bird day, Do one. Hang up your gun.
Yes, I think that's usually. That being said, though, I do what we've been quite harsh about the whole counting aspect of it, but I think that the instinct comes from a good place from Gideon here, which is try and shoot the good ones. Don't pay too much attention to the less exciting ones. I think we have to give credit where credit is due.
I don't know Gideon's actual name. I've probably met him. I'm not actually having a go at Gideon here. I'm because he's talking about restraint. I'm talking about the gun bus conversation thereafter, and the other extreme of Gideon, but then also the other people in the line that he's talking about, who are probably either doing this and making absolutely sure they get their fair share to the point where they'll just shoot anything for the sake of their numbers, or they're shooting more than their fair share because they lack social etiquette. One of those. Two.
Are either of you two familiar with the myths of the wild hunt, Herne the Hunter, these sorts of things?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I wrote about it on Scribehound. Double plug for Scribehound so far in the episode. I wrote about it on Scribehound just between Christmas and New Year. It's a myth that is all over Europe in slightly different variants, all sort of localized versions of it. And it's basically a myth that talks that is about the notion of restraint when hunting. People who poach, who hunt on saints' days or whatever, who hunt out of season, who hunt greedily or without restraint, are punished by having to join the wild hunt and hunt forever. There's a version on Dartmoor, I want to say, possibly Exmoor. Old Crochan, he hunted without restraint, hunted his horse until it was too tired, and he was then forced to hunt forever on the back of a skeletal horse, this sort of thing. So it's a myth that has existed since sort of probably sort of Viking, Norse times, maybe even older than that is specifically about the importance of being restrained when hunting.
I like it.
So I think it's a really interesting topic, and it's something that has been a debate in our world since forever.
Turning up on a single gun day, obviously, like, people ask about this with Guns on Pegs. That wasn't exactly what started Guns on Pegs, but the point with shooting is that, and Gideon here explains, he's not part of a syndicate. He loves going around, meeting different people, going around the countryside. Like that's cool. That's great that he wants to do that. And I couldn't agree more with him. Seeing lots of different places over the course of the season is really lovely. And actually, this is the way that allows you to do that, unless you're going to sort of organize 8 other mates every time, which, let's be honest, is impossible. So I think this is great. I think what makes it a shame is they don't maybe have the attitude of aspects of what Gideon is talking about here, and they're there just for themselves, and they're not sort of willing to they're not going into that going, right, I'm going to make these guys my mates. Look for, there's a great chance we might shoot together again. They're literally, go and shoot, sit in my car during 11s, or just hang out in our own little cliquey group and not make an effort. I think that's just the side of shooting that lets it down.
That's it is a point that is not made often enough, that driven shooting, well, actually, no, we can include walked up shooting in this. It is a team sport, right? You're supposed to be working together in some ways. And actually, that is one reason why perhaps you might not take the approach of just leaving birds to go over your head, because actually, I do think in some ways, birds will follow each other, right? So if you're not doing your bit and stopping birds going over your peg, perhaps fewer birds are therefore going over your neighbours. There is a sort of aspect of herding, I suppose. Not herding isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. But equally, you would sort of expect the people on either side of you or elsewhere in the line to be taking a similar approach to you, which is making sure that everybody is having plenty of shooting.
Well, he's asked this question. I wanted to say rhetorical question, but Alex, does he continue shooting selectively, maintaining own standards and paying for the enthusiasm of others?
Yeah, I think I like where he's coming from, and if you are picking and choosing what birds you want to shoot, then that's the great mentality to have. But I would probably say to him, maybe don't limit yourself to 5, and if assess the drive as you get to it, and if you are in the middle and there's some really nice birds coming that you'd like to shoot at, then shoot at them, I think.
Yeah.
Have either of you ever had not quite the red mist come down, but you sort of got a bit fed up with how everybody else is shooting and thought, well, I'm just going to drop my standards a bit just to prove a point?
Once. Yep. And it was actually more complicated than that. I was on a duck drive and everyone's getting laid in, and I was like just almost not shooting because I just don't enjoy it. And it got to the point where it was actually awkward if I didn't pull the trigger,
right?
Because you're going to end up being singled out, and I was just like, I'm just going to avoid this, and I'm just going to crack on and take part. Now that was kind of slightly the other way around. I still obviously shot a fair few in the end. It's just that like going against what your natural instinct is kind of what the aspect of your question I was getting at.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? I mean, so if somebody's poaching, for example, and you don't know who they are, maybe you hold off on dropping one at their feet because you don't know them.
Yes.
But how long do you hold off before? How long can you personally hold off before you think, sod it, I'm having that one?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if someone was next to me and dropping them at my feet, I think I'd try and get ahead, get and shoot them in front a bit earlier. But I'm always very much, when I'm in the line, is that you let your neighbours shoot at their birds, and if they miss them, then you turn around and try and shoot them behind. And that's the way I've always sort of been, really.
Yeah, actually, that scenario there you paint, George, I've definitely done that. When someone like after a while just keeps shooting in front of you, you then just have a reach, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it. If it's your brother, then it's once. They only have to do it once, and then you think, oh, okay, the gloves are off here. But in other scenarios, you might leave it 2 or 3 drives, and then eventually you think, oh, bollocks to this. So yes, it is such a tricky one, and the cost factor, paying for the enthusiasm of others, I think is really tough. But I think ultimately it becomes a personal choice, doesn't it? And you have to be able to get in the car at the end of the day and be proud of what you've done.
It's interesting though, because overages are actually really uncommon now, in that shoots are better managed, and the concept of overages is such a horrible thing for this very scenario that it's very unusual to find yourself in a day where you're expected to shell out. Like that day is usually just going to be stopped because they're not. If you're a shoot manager and you're just allowing them to crack on and then sending them a bill without asking them if they'd like to crack on, then that is also incredibly wrong. You can't reach the bag, go beyond it without informing the team,
and then present an invoice.
I mean, no. So I think that this is because if you're on an individual gun day and you say to the team, would you like to crack on? And some of them are coming completely out of it and some of them have been filling the boots, then the answer is always going to be no. So I'm actually quite interested as to how this situation even arises, because the shoot manager needs to be having a word with the greedy guns and saying, you've had your fair share. Ease off, please. This is a day for everyone.
Have you ever had to have that conversation, Alex?
No, I haven't. No, but then most of the teams that I have dealt with in the past have always been teams that know each other. So they have banter back and forth, and that they're not people aren't greedy in them.
That's the thing. There's so few of these actual guns out there, but you do come across them from time to time.
Yeah, definitely.
So awkward. So look, is restraint noble or just expensive? I mean, it's
both.
Noble.
It's both,
and it's expensive. It depends. Like extreme restraint, unnecessary.
Yeah, very good. Right. Okay. So, Chris, over to you for an unpopular opinion.
So this one comes from someone that we shall call Odysseus, who writes, "Dear Guns on Pegs team, I'm sitting here at the end of the season, heavily reflecting on the season with my wonderful son. We both beat on a lovely local syndicate. The members of the syndicate are generally an incredibly lovely bunch, but there is one member who is in charge of the kitty for the under 16 beaters. On the last day of the season, my son was given a peg on the last drive of the season by a generous gun. He did not pull the trigger as no birds came over him. But then when all was being settled up, he was shortchanged because he was, and I quote, lucky enough to be given a peg and did not beat the last drive. But this gun's daughters, who stand in the beating line chatting and giggling with no regard to birds being missed, were paid in full. We don't have a beaters day on this syndicate, and my young lad has not missed a day beating this season or any previous season. He came away feeling rather unappreciated as he's a dedicated and hard-working beater. Am I right in thinking this syndicate member is being tighter than a duck's behind? Oh, right. Hold on. There's people. He's given away a lot of information here. There's going to be people who know exactly who this is. So this person has multiple daughters who go beating regularly. They're in a syndicate with someone whose son also beats on every day,
and whose son shot the last drive of the season. So. Yes, anonymity perhaps not terribly well preserved.
Right, well, anyway, it's out there now. So, Alex, verdict. You must have been in charge of pay packets and young beaters many, many times.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would have, as a parent, would have probably said, oh, hang on a minute, I'm just going to see if I can grab that money and then pay the child with my own money if it didn't come my way from anyone else. So that's probably what I would have done.
It's a very good solution. It does seem a bit steep, doesn't it? That you've been allowed to stand on peg, therefore you don't get your full pay packet for beaters day. What is effectively?
Yeah, it's very mean indeed.
Yeah, I mean, this guy sounds like an idiot. He's one of my.
You're going to ban him.
From being in charge of the pay packet, 100%. Yeah, he's banned.
Well, that's a very good point. How did he end up in charge? Perhaps because I wonder what the pay for the under 16 beaters is. A Mars bar and a can of Coke, I should think.
I mean,
it wouldn't be a lot. I wouldn't have thought. Maybe £10.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I remember when I was 13, it was more than that then, and that was like moons of inflation ago.
You were beating on very smart shoots, though, Chris.
I remember that. I used to go beating on all sorts, but I do remember them making a point of like really trying to encourage the younger beaters on the shoots I was on. So they wouldn't treat you any differently. They'd very much treat you as one of the rest of the team, because then you kind of felt like, I'll work my way up.
Bit of responsibility, yeah,
bit of responsibility. Earning good money made you like super excited to go back, put loads of effort in. I think if you take the mickey, you're only just going to harm that person's enthusiasm for it in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Although, so this year, my brother promised my kids a pay packet if they beat every drive of the day, because they quite like to come and stand with me on the peg or hang out with my dad by the gun bus and pick up and that sort of stuff. And it took until the last day of the season. It might even have been Beaters Day when they finally beat every drive and they got their pay packet, and they were quite excited about that. But I think with 6-year-olds, it's a bit different from someone who's old enough to shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gosh, it is just, I can't really understand the logic there. I mean, sort of the internal logic makes sense, but then when you expand it out to the fact that this guy's beat every day of the season up until then, and
right, hold on. Let's just go through the mindset of this chap who's been accused of being tighter than a duck's behind. There's a young lad, as you just said, beat every day of the season, is like clearly dedicated. We don't see many of those people anyway. And then you are going over to him and shortchanging him on the last day. Like, seriously, how are you feeling? What is going through his mind to do that to a young lad?
I can't understand it. Because I mean, how much has he docked the pay by? £2.50? £5? Like, it doesn't seem worth it.
Okay, can we just go for the question, Alex? Is he right in thinking this syndicate member is being tighter than a duck's behind?
Yes, 100%.
George?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's a terrible thing, awful. So that's not an unpopular opinion.
Okay, so on the basis that we've publicly ousted him, and to give you some more confidence, Odysseus, there are thousands of other people listening to this who also agree with you. I suggest you get in touch with the other syndicate members and explain that there are thousands of people that think this man's a prick, and that you should.
Well, I was going to say maybe that our correspondent Odysseus has already parted ways with the syndicate, which is why he's not so worried about having outed himself with all of the detail he's put in here. Perhaps they've already got another syndicate. Yeah, gone to another
and then
syndicate.
Never drinking in that pub ever again. And
oh dear, I mean, yeah, find another syndicate. I mean, jeepers.
Thanks for sending it in, and I'm really sorry for your son. We should almost do a fundraiser for him. Sounds like a dedicated chap, and any other syndicate would be very lucky to have him.
Here. Couldn't agree more. Right. So Odysseus, Biggles, and now you, Alex, are the newest members of the most noble order of the Garters, and will shortly be in receipt of a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast Shooting Sock Garters, and can claim their free year of Guns on Pegs Premium and access to the Order of the Garters WhatsApp community. So in order to do all that, drop the email in pod@gunsonpegs.com, include your address, and we'll sort all the admin bits out there. If you too have got a shooting confession, quandary, or query that you would like us and our guests to help you with, or if you've got an unpopular opinion or a podcast suggestion, and you'd like a set of garters, drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com. Now, for a long time, we've been trying to work out how to give all of you lovely listeners more podcasts more often. And we've also felt that with a lot of our guests, we never quite have the time that we want to dig as deep into some of the topics that we'd like to discuss as deeply as we would like to. So, drum roll, big announcement. We're going to try making these episodes that Chris and I do with guests into 2-parters. So, join us next week when we will be talking to Alex about the GWCT Loddington shoot and how that's helping us to understand the benefits that a well-managed shoot can bring to the countryside and what good practice, good shoot management looks like. Until then, thanks very much for listening and goodbye.
Wow.